When glyphosate was introduced, it was a miracle. It truly was. Before that time, we had to till the ground twice. It changed our lives in a very good way.
In April, the Supreme Court took up a case around glyphosate, a weed-killing herbicide sold commercially by Monsanto under the brand name Roundup. The chemical maker is a subsidiary of the German pharmaceutical company Bayer. The chemical is used to kill weeds, but litigants over the years have said the chemical causes cancer, blaming it on their diagnoses and suing Bayer and Monsanto for millions of dollars.
Here's the background. Monsanto was asking the court to protect them from lawsuits filed by cancer patients. But just last month, President Trump, in a brief, asked the Supreme Court to side with Monsanto, and Monsanto was thrilled.
The High Court is determining whether federal laws preempt state-level lawsuits stemming from the absence of warning labels for products containing the chemical. In a statement to CNBC, a Bayer spokesperson said that no health regulator anywhere in the world has ever found glyphosate to pose a risk to human health. This isn't the only development for glyphosate in Washington. President Donald Trump in February signed an executive order to promote the domestic production of glyphosate. He used a law called the Defense Production Act to do it. That means that the government will take efforts to procure glyphosate because it's deemed as a national security priority. That executive order incensed Make America Healthy Again supporters who are opposed to glyphosate in agriculture.
I don't think he's trying to protect Monsanto. I think he's trying to protect the 80% of American farmers who are addicted to glyphosate.
The MAHA coalition was a sizable voting bloc that helped deliver President Trump the White House. If they lose the MAHA coalition, they're at serious risk of losing the Senate and losing the House of Representatives in the upcoming midterms. Blake Hurst is a farmer who relies on Roundup.
I grow corn and soybeans and flowers, and I've been farming here for 49 years. Most of my corn is fed to animals, goes to pigs. We use these chemicals to replace labor. I couldn't possibly cultivate all of my acres that I grow. I don't have the labor. I don't have a way to do it.
Farmers rely on Roundup for several reasons. The first of which is it's just really efficient. Think planes dropping glyphosate over big fields of crops, or think big machinery being used to target areas that might be prone to weeds. Roundup kills weeds, and it doesn't kill the plant that they're trying to grow. Another reason farmers use it is it allows them to do things like till less, which helps the soil remain healthier.
We are no-till farmers, meaning we don't control the weeds mechanically. We don't till the soil, which saves soil, which cuts down on erosion, and also cuts down our use of fossil fuel products. We can lose up to 30 to 40% of our production if we don't control weeds, so it's a big challenge.
There are very real concerns that glyphosate is a carcinogen, and that this chemical that could cause cancer is pervasive through our food system.
There's extensive research on the negative health impacts from glyphosate. The one that is highlighted often is non-hodgkin's lymphoma. There's also research on all kinds of different physiological effects that glyphosate has, specifically on endocrine disruption, impacting fertility.
The Environmental Protection Agency, which regulates pesticides and herbicides, does not classify glyphosate as a carcinogen, and therefore does not require disclosures of cancer risk.
It is not hazardous. The EPA, the Canadian counterpart to the EPA, the European Union, all have found glyphosate not dangerous, not a threat.
The company has faced thousands of lawsuits over the lack of health risk disclosures on their Roundup product.
Glyphosate ends up in our food supply a few different ways. The primary way is through something called pre-harvest desiccation, where farmers want to ripen an entire field of grains at one time to make it easier to harvest. This has been happening for about 20 years, where the farmer will spray it just before harvest with glyphosate, and then they'll go and they'll harvest it.
The average consumer has no danger from the products I'm using here on my farm.
Farm groups and President Trump both made the case that there's no direct alternative to glyphosate. They say there's just nothing else they can use that will protect crops as well as Roundup does.
What do we do without glyphosate? Well, we continue to spray. We'll use chemicals that are more dangerous to me and the people around me who apply these chemicals.
RFK's nomination to lead the Health and Human Services Department caused a lot of fear in the agriculture community. Since joining the administration, Kennedy has made clear he's still no big fan of glyphosate.
You guys helped create this problem over the past 30 years.
And you just told the
He's
big
dealing with
corporation
a
that they don't even have liability for it
He
anymore.
is dealing with a national security vulnerability where the Chinese could shut off our food supply in a single day.
Department of Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has a long history of being opposed to glyphosate as an attorney. He actually took Monsanto to court over the issue back in the 2010s. MAHA supporters, though, were willing to come along to support Trump at Kennedy's behest because they saw someone talking about what they have lobbied so long for, which is to get chemicals out of the food system.
The combination of the executive order and going to bat for Bayer at the Supreme Court are really inexcusable. And I think it showed a deep disconnect between what the administration thinks that MAHA cares about and what is actually true.
There's a real conflict around glyphosate. If all of a sudden glyphosate wasn't available for farmers to use, yields would likely fall, and that would likely make food prices go way up. There are also very real political concerns for the White House and Republicans, who could lose their control of both the House of Representatives and the Senate come November.
The likelihood isn't that people are so frustrated in the MAHA movement they go and vote for a Democrat. They just won't vote.